So, we are back. What I've done is, well, we had to reboot the router. What I've done is painted a diamond, and I was just taking care of this circle. Okay. Now, whoop! No! Brush down, brush down, brush down, and fuzzy wuzzies. All right. Fuzzy wuzzies, man. Fuzzy wuzzies. I feel like there's a bit of a fuzzy on that too. Okay. So we are back. That was a terrible, terrible drop, but it's not the end of the world. So I made a diamond. I made a diamond. I made my lips. Made my heart. We're going to put a little bit more color into this circle. Really just kind of dropping it in there now. All right, it has connected, and we are getting a bit of buffering again. Could be because he's connecting up to the server.
Well, I'm glad that solved nothing.
Right? All right, we're tanking again. Oh no, we're tanking again. Gonna grab some of that color. Yep, it's still thinking. Drop some color in there, and now we're gonna need to drop some water in there. Okay. Looks like it might be sorting itself out again. Just picking up some more red from on my palette and dropping the actual pigment down in here. It's actually kind of cool how you can do that. Again, I love the whole reusability of this medium. All right, looks like it's balanced out. Midlet is having a good time. She's singing to herself. So, what other shapes should we do? I guess I could try a crescent moon. Don't know that it should be that pointy, but it's art! It looks more like it looks more like a boomerang than a moon. Like, am I the only one who thinks that? It looks more like a boomerang than a moon, but it's fine. It's fine. It's it's art. That's what I'm going with. Is it's a shape. And it doesn't particularly matter. You know, like everything else around here, it's the journey more than the destination.
Hold it, hold it. Why do you? Who says that?
It's definitely the journey
Who said that initially?
over the destination, for sure. I kind of feel like we should have like a, you know what?
Iron oil.
I'm gonna widen this out.
So the gold point.
And I can't even really tell you why, besides it just feels like it should be. I feel like it. Feels like it should be a little bit wider right there. And you know what? I'm happy with it.
Okay.
Okay. So there's another shape. You can see how the lips are drying darker where I went over them with another layer. And you can still see the wispiness of the lines that I drew in there, but they're faded considerably. Okay, this one's gonna has a little bit more of the brighter red to it. Only ornamental boomerangs look like that. Yeah, I don't think it looks like a boomerang. We're just going with it's a crescent-y shape. It's a red banana. It's a red banana. Okay, so what else should we throw in here? Actually, I am going to remove something. Let me put this one down. Okay, and we're gonna go back with this one. My great eraser. And what I want to do is get this one wet. Now the lips have dried. And I'd like to actually lift off a little bit of color. Wipe it out. I would just like the impression of a highlight, right? Like the highlight. And you can see where it has actually removed a touch of color. I'm not sure how well that's showing up there. Let me do this. Like, do you see where I removed a bit of color right there? It's not much. It's not much. But it's part. Just knock that over. It's kind of part and parcel of like highlights and shadow. And one of the things that I've learned you can do with watercolor is you can lighten and see it's showing up a little bit better there. You can lighten and you can darken. So while we're doing this, I also want to kind of work on that concept. And so I'm going to work on lightening, you know, basically shading. So we're going to lighten this side a bit, as if the sun were coming from here or a light source were coming from here. And then I'm going to darken over here. So I figure we can do a couple of things in one go. And I don't know if you pick, yeah, it is. It's picking up right here. You can actually see where the paint is being removed. You can see the color that I'm taking off, because this was a clean brush with just some water on it. So I've got a nice bit of highlight there. I think the lip should be highlighted right there, kind of like shines, right? Should be highlighted right there. And for this one, I'm just going to use the edge. And this is honestly kind of trying to put into practice some of the things that I've seen. We're just going to edge right here, but not really got to try myself. So I've been learning all sorts of interesting techniques. And I would like to give them a bit of time and practice. So you've already seen I cleaned up the corner of the mouth over here. And now do the same thing here where my brush popped out a touch while I was lightening. It's almost like erasing. And in a sense you are, because as you basically, we have water and we have paint, right? And it's the ratio of those two things that will give us all of our effects. So that corner's a little bit messy, that edge is a little bit messy, but I can live with it. Okay, so we've got a little bit of a shading or lightening here, a lightening here. So highlights, and again, more with the tip on this one because it's kind of a larger brush. Actually, I'm going to switch. Let's go with this fine baby. This particular one is number 1. Okay. And I'm just going to remove, oops, there's a little bit of water drop on the edge of the barrel. I don't want that. And again, we're just going to remove a bit here, just to lighten it, just to highlight it. I don't want much gone. And I love that you can see how the color is like actually coming off. So again, we're just going to highlight this edge here, wipe off the color, come back in. Ah! That's so cool. Okay. Now, this is interesting because of the way, the orientation that I have this crescent thing. Again, assuming, I know the lips are their own thing, but assuming the light's coming this way like I've done with these other ones, I think it would be more like literally lighten this whole top side higher up here and then fading a bit. So let's just wipe away the excess color and just keep working that down. And I'll have this underside more, I think, would be more darkened. All right, clean water, excess off. Now, sister, I know you have, you know, an artistic side, and your dad actually paints and has sold his paintings for money. Um, and you had been really helpful, like describing to me where would be a good place to maybe add shadow, like on my initial painting, like do a little bit on the fence, etc. If you have thoughts you want to chime in, feel free. This is kind of like a nice excuse for us to chat. And I know the drop frames really suck. And I'm sure we've lost. Okay. There we go. Okay, so we're doing a lot of things with this beyond what the exercise actually even called for. Okay, should we get any more in here, or should we just kind of leave it as is? We still have some red here. Just give it a dab. So let's go for one more shape. I'm really liking those lips, actually. Let's go for one more shape. What can we do? Ooh. Okay, let's kind of go for like a saucer type shape. Okay. So, by saucer I mean like rings. I don't even know how I would. I don't even know how I would tackle that. Actually, now that I've said that, I honestly don't know how to tackle that. Okay. All right, let's just go something like that. More egg or oval shaped, I guess. Let's just go for something like this. I just want to try to make sure that all the shapes are different, so we have different edges to kind of get to, you know? I'm pretty happy with the coverage overall that we've got on this, you know, on these shapes. So if I were to, now buffers, stay away. Oh my gosh, I feel bad saying that because there's a friend that I've worked um, with several different Minecraft projects that his name is Buffers. Okay. So again, actually, I want to go back over removing some of this. If the light was down here, wouldn't that go a little bit farther down? Like it seems to me, if the light were coming down here, it might just come a little bit farther down. And this would, whole top side would be a little bit lessened. Let's flip it over. Lighten out that edge. Let this go down a little bit further. Okay, that's good enough. That's good enough. I'm making me scared. It's so making me scared. Okay, dirty, 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 dirty. Dirty water. Okay. There we go. I'll leave you there. We'll clean a bit of this one that I originally had the that I originally had the water going on. I'm going to go ahead and try to refresh pack side over here. Just so he still gets credit for whatever. Right? Okay. Now, just going to take this edge of extra paint off with a finer brush. And I think I'm doing okay. Okay, so now we need to really get some more color on here, right? Because the point of this exercise, oh, you could really see some of the highlighting. I need to remember what I'm calling, what this is called. Highlights. Where the light is coming in and it's got a bit of a highlight. I love that. Oh, I love that. You can actually pick it up. That's fantastic. Okay, so now, fantastic, baby. Let's give this a good rinse. This is my original red. So now we need to go ahead and go in there. And we need to go in with some blue. Let me give this a nice little roll. Keep the tip nice. Again, I have read and I have watched videos on this stuff, but I've only ever actually done any of it with you guys, and I've wanted so bad every single day. I'm like, I kind of want to paint. I kind of want to paint. I kind of want to paint. Excuse me. Oh my goodness. Okay, so now we need to go in there, and we need to go in with a larger brush. And we're going to use these two. So now, it wasn't recommended that we do like wet on wet with the rest of it. I believe it was. Using a different color, I began painting around these shapes. Prepare enough paint. For better flow, keep the blue area of your painting moist. Yes! Okay, I thought so. Okay, so we definitely want to get a bit of wet on the paper. So let's get our clean water, and let's just get a bit on here. Going around those shapes. I'm only going to really do these top two shapes at first. Whoa, I saw some puddling. We don't want to puddle. And again, trying to get close without getting too close. And basically, from what I understand, you want your paper to glisten with the wet, with the water, but not pool. So, again, I'm going to try to get right up close to these already. We want it to glisten, but not pool. So I'm pretty happy with that amount. I think of liquid, and I am going to add another bit of water to this. I'm trying so hard to use actual techniques, and I know I've said that prior. The thing is, you know, like, I don't have, you know, someone sitting down with me and saying, hey, this is how you do this. Go ahead and, you know, touch this to this, and, you know, you'll be good. And so I have to like mentally think. I'm actually going to mix a little bit of another blue in here. Okay, get down there, buddy. Yeah, there we go. I'm like, get off my brush. And now that I've done that, I'm going to put a touch more water in here. So I have to make myself think, okay, you know, because it doesn't just come naturally to me as far as, oh, hey, and now we want water. I have to make myself think, hey, and dip. Okay. So we're going to do a nice wet on wet. I'm not really worried about the border. I do want to try to just basically leave a little bit of a border. If I was worried about it, I would have, you know, taken it off and okay, we want to get really close. But this is not the one to get super close on. This is the one to get generally on, because I have a finer brush for the super close. Okay. We just want to fill in the edges here. So I'm not super worried. I just want to make sure that I've got... Hey, are you beeping at me? You are beeping at me. Okay. I just want to make sure that we've got like a nice wash. And remember, every time we do a new layer, it would get darker. Right now, I'm just trying to keep it nice and loose. So the exercise here is to get as close to the edges as you can. Which I can see being a good skill. Because like say I paint a big flower, right? And then I want to do the background. Or I end up doing something else next to it. I don't want to go too far down because I don't have any wet over there. But I'm okay to come basically to here. Not bad. I got a little bit close right there, but that's okay. That's okay. So let's go ahead and get another round of wet. And we'll come down again, similarly to before. Just wetting the paper down around these two shapes. Now, if you looked at the exercise that I linked, there's really a lot more going on in theirs for the, that got a little close, woman. For the shapes, you know, she has a lot. That's too much water. You did not wipe off your brush. She has a lot more in the way of shapes, smaller shapes to go around. But I could live with myself for not having a whole bunch of them. I did end up doing just a few. Let me wipe off this and collect some of that where it is pooling just a bit. And that's the fun thing about art. I mean, like I didn't intend to do red and blue. I actually kind of liked the colors that were on there, and I'm like, you know, that's pretty nifty. We can do that. But then when I actually looked at my easel, I'm like, you know, I've got a lot of red. I've got a lot of blue. Let's go with that. So there's kind of a blob of blue paint that's still working its way down, so I want to add another drop of water to that. Okay. And you can see that slight bit that where I had gone wet on wet with just getting the water there that started to ease in. That's okay. And again, this is where it's going to layer up a bit, where you go over it a second time where it touches, and that's all right too. I think the blue and the red actually look kind of nice together too. Oh, well, look at that. Blue and red. Well, duh. That's part of the primaries, of course. I'm like, where are they on the color wheel? They're primary. Blue, yellow, and red. Yellow, blue, and red. Duh, woman. Wow. Wow. You know, sometimes I amaze even myself at how derptastic I can be. Okay, really got close to that one. I want to get as close as we can without invading the space. There we go. Okay. Time to go over with another layer of wet right after I get some of my delicious chai. Oh, my goodness, that is so good. Okay, dab the water off the brush. Dab more water off the brush. Okay, around that eggy oval, the oval shape. I know, right? Dirt. Okay. It's just water, so it ain't really hurting anything besides to possibly lighten it. I don't think there was any real harm. Okay, and that looks like what I'm supposed to see glistening with the water, but not pooling. Okay. So now we're going to go back in there. What? Get some of this blue worked up because there's still like a little bit of a... And grab some more of that. Get off my brush! Pigment? Pigment? Hey, you. Get off. There you go. Get off my brush. I'm waiting for Pat to think I'm talking to him. Ah, there's buffers again. There we go. Buffers, buffers. What did I ever do to you? Okay, get the paint right up in there. Nice and flowy. I got that little chunk up there again. All right. I'm actually going to flick a little bit of this green in there. Looks like it's balanced out again. All right, let's get some of that extra off. And I am going to go through and blend a little bit of this because we did, you know how the instructions said to make sure you have plenty of that blue? Wheel! Uh-oh, that's a big chunk of color. I did not squeeze that water out. Beautiful. I definitely did not have enough of the blue. And I guess, you know, if I planned on doing something with majority of one color, I probably should have gone ahead and added just a bit. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to add a touch of blue. And I'm going to go with cobalt blue. Because I feel like that's probably going to mix the best with what I've got going. Now a little chunk of blue from the rim kind of came off on that. So I'm going to throw that in the mix too. Okay. Oh man. Twitch, why you gotta be so rude? And actually I should be directing that at I should totally be directing that at Spectrum. So let's get some of that cobalt blue mixed right into this mix. We'll get some more water in there because we definitely are going to need some more. I'm going to want to layer this up a bit. Just touching the edge so my water will fall down. Okay. For the moment, we're balanced out. So for the moment, we are continuing. All right. Now that's going to give us a much better pool. So I'm like, okay, let's grab a little blue from up here And a little blue from right here. And so that's a lesson learned. Whoop. Make sure you have enough mixed. Whoo! Hi, Needy User. It was Showin. Showin came by for a visit. I told him there was no marathon for next month, or for this month, and that and he says, well, how do you want a marathon next month? And the next thing you know, 1230 was dropped on me. 1,230. Santa Claus. All right, drip some more blue in there, or more water in there. So, yeah. And it was definitely a what? Moment. And we got a beautiful treat stream in the mix, too. Now, you can see how the color has changed kind of dramatically, not just because it's wet, but because I did, like, I picked up some blue from here, and I picked up some blue from there, and then a little bit of green, and then I'm like, okay, you still don't have enough, just get some paint, right? And that's okay. So I'm going to go over in general with this much lighter sky blue. And we're going to work on a re-wetting. A re-wetting of the paper, or my canvas in this case, so that everything flows nicely. Because I kind of did it in segments, the flow, you know, we were having drop frames and all that, and so the flow is definitely a bit interrupted. So I would like to go over this and just give everything a bit of smoothness, you know? Let's just do a bit of blending, I guess. So what I'm working on right now, Needy User, wetting redding. Okay. Is I'm using two different colors of paint, a background, which is the blue, and the red, and I'm just trying to go through, oh, that's a little hunk of green that's blending in there now. I'm just trying to go through and get as close as I can. So in general, I'm trying to get, so I did the original shapes in the red, and now I'm trying to get basically close to them, and then I've got a smaller brush to get, you know, more, to get even closer. Just a little bit longer. Please, 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 a little bit more. And yeah, that's a happy little green. So then we're going to go over, and I'm okay with that. And now that I've smoothed things out a bit in between, I'm going to go over with a finer brush and try to get in close so there's just a small, very fine white line in there. Fun fact, for the worthy dungeons, ain't no joke. Spikes on nearly every wall, something like 80% coverage, and they all have one additional layer of spikes, making them 3 and 4 wide in some areas. Wow. That sounds like you had quite the dungeon there, Wolfan. Okay, now I do want to go ahead and do just a touch around that green, just to fade out that one like spot that's stuck to my brush, and fade it a bit. I also want to go over the edges. Again, just to kind of smooth out some of the lines. I'm just looking for a general, whereas we had lots of stroke showing, I just want it to be, and that's one of the things that I think is really pretty about watercolor, is how you can really just blend things. And, you know, going over it again, and you can just feather things out. You can let things just be more swirly. Okay. And so I'm really, really happy with that. I've added a blue background in the time it took you to run errands. We're still a little bit, we are having some serious issues with, buffering. Okay, so I've gone over and I'm just smoothing. I like kind of the swirly effect, but I don't want to see like all these itty bitty brush strokes, you know? And so I'm just trying to smooth it. We have added some cobalt blue to the palette. Get over here. I also ended up at, basically I grabbed like every blue there was around my palette that was left over. We got a bit of this green in here too. And I still added a dab of cobalt blue itself. Okay, now. Alright, now I want this to get nice and clean. Every time you come back, you have to restart the stream because you're so you're not a minute behind. I bet. That does not surprise me at all. Okay, so let's get this one out where I can blot. Nice clean water. Do a basic clean on that brush. Okay, so this is the brush that I have for closer details, and as I look at it, I think I'm going to be okay. Now, ideally, we should be able to get in there nice and close. I want it to be really, really wet. And here we go. We want to get as close to this as possible without going over it. So I'm basically trying to not touch the red. And it's okay if I touch it slightly. But the exercise is to go over and get as close as you can. And essentially leave just a little bit of white around your original one. Now I've gone a little bit extra. In the sense that I have gone through and I've specifically kind of combined some things that I've wanted to try from other lessons in Skillshare and my book on like highlighting. So I've got a bit of highlighting on each of these pieces as if the light source was coming this way. And the lips are kind of their own thing because I just really wanted a bit of highlight right here and just a touch around. Reconnection successful. Wow.
This is a multi-minute one.
Yep.
And we're back.
A like that you're lonely, lonely like me. I could be lonely with you. Okay. It looks like we're reconnected. So, we have checked. There is nobody, there's nobody doing anything else. Wow, I really did use quite a bit for that background. Duh. Now, I did, again, I'm going to go through and blend a bit with the color or with the water. Because right now we have very darker green, right? We have a lot of dark green or you know, various shades of green around, and then in my closer work, in my detail work. So let me roll this out. And I'm going to go back again with my larger brush for around the back. This still actually has a little bit of the color on it. And once again, I'm just going to work on blending that green that's come up around the edges so much. And that's really just because I was grabbing color off my palette and not... I was grabbing color off my palette and, you know, not just mixing more blue. And that's definitely been a lesson learned. And I also did not blend enough of the background color to begin with. So making enough of the background color to begin with would kind of be an important, you know, 101. Like you would think, oh, well, duh. But, I mean, I'm new at this, so... And the funny thing is, again, if you saw the assignment or the challenge, the practice exercise that I linked, it does say be sure that you make enough of your background blue. I did not make enough of my background blue. I had so much dried paint that I thought, oh, well, surely, you know, we're going to have plenty. But those were all just itty bitty bits, you know? Okay, sounds like a neighbor's dog is out. We have had 2 new neighbors in the last year, and both of them have dogs. I love it. Okay, and again, I just want to smooth this background because we have some distinct green and blue. And I think it's kind of neat, though, because there is a consistent sort of a greenish halo around these. It kind of looks neat to me. Almost as if intended. Totally not intended, but when I grabbed a little bit of this blue, it had like green underneath, and all of that completely showed through. Because remember, this is a transparent medium. Now that said, I am completely and utterly thrilled with how that turned out. But wait. There's more. Now what you saw, and I'm definitely getting a little bit of buckling on here because we have had a lot of wet on wet on wet. Okay. So, I kind of think it's cool. I'm digging it. But there's actually a little bit more that I want to do. Now, you saw that I did some highlights. You can see it really well on this bottom lip where I removed some of the color. You can see the little swirl here, the little swirls where I've removed some color. Again, assuming the light source is coming from here. So assuming the light source is coming from here. Now, I'm honestly pretty happy with it just as is, but I want to go in and do some, no, Ryu, November's 500 did not carry over. November's half gold did not carry over. It is new every single month. However, Showin happened, and we do have this month's goal met plus about 300. So we are on our way towards a marathon for next month, which is fantastic. You did, which is fantastic because last month we were halfway to bill pay goal, and that's always difficult. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get some clean water. And by the way, I'm not going to do the second. We're losing so many frames. I'm just going to finish up on this one with some darker tones, and then I'm going to end it. So I want to get some shadow in here.
Honestly, that would have been a really good test.
I'm going to try to break up that. Yeah. Drop a bit of paint from here into here, and I basically want to darken it up. I'm going to try to get more, and I'm going to look on, again, if the light were this way, then in theory, like wouldn't the darker edge be down here, right? So I'm just going to work on doing a little bit of shadowing, or I guess shadowing, where we've got our light there. So we should have, some dark opposite. Oh, and that's an oopsie, but we totally fixed it. Totally fixed it. So we'll kind of have the opposite of the shadowing. And I'm going to go through and just kind of do that over here, just nice and simple. Get some little bit on the side. Just try and get, and these are cheap brushes, and you could tell because I've got some really long some of the problems that we've had is going over the edge is because there's like 3 like really long hairs in here, bristles. And then there's not. So it's not so much a point as it is like a drag. All right, so again, over here, we've got it lighter. So we're going to go a little bit darker on this edge. Just trying to work on that whole dark and light thing. This would be darkened over here, and with watercolor, the more you go over it, the more depth you have, the more layering you have. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to go through and maybe do some trimming on some of these because some of them are nice. It mostly seems to be an issue with the pointy ones. Some of them are really nice and blunt and really well shaped, but some of these round ones are a little bit of an issue. So yes, I do think I should. So we're going to go to our 10 o'clock, and I'm going, if we do a major drop again, I'm probably going to just be done. But I'd like to go all the way till 10 like normal. And then wrap it up. So I'm not going to do that second project. We'll save that. And the second project actually is sort of being worked into this because it was all about highlight and shadow. And so I've kind of worked that into here because it's something that I've been kind of learning about. And the shadowing with watercolor, the shadow is kind of how you emphasize, is one of the main ways that you emphasize the light. Okay. Now, I am going to just turn the page a little bit because I feel like this needs... Oh, that actually worked out really nicely. Okay. I'm like, don't be afraid to turn the page. Okay. So now we come to the lips, which I'm actually really, really happy about. Now, what I want to do, I kind of want to give them a little bit of dark around the edge. I'm trying to be careful of these bristles and not go over the edging. Now, I know this lesson was this practice, this attempt. Oh, we got the tongue stuck out. Was all about just getting as close to the edges as you can, you know, getting precise. That's what this was about, was getting precise. But I've sort of combined it with getting precise and shadows and highlights. So I've sort of combined the two projects that I had in mind for tonight into one, and I'm actually really, once again, incredibly happy with how it turned out. Okay. And I'm going to go back over, remember that line that I did in the beginning? How do you think could be a psychotic tongue? Absolutely, absolutely. You know, my grandma, my mom's mom would do that all the time. And she would get teased, like, uh-oh, you know, she's funkin'. Like, we'd be playing a game and she'd be figuring out math or something and she'd have her tongue stuck out. And you just, like, couldn't help but laugh. We absolutely could have a honey thing. Oh, I would love to have a honey paint. Okay. Or honey art or something like that. Okay. So I've done a little bit of defining on the mouth. I've done a little bit of highlighting. And a little bit of shadowing. Now I'm in that danger zone. I'm going to, as I continue touching this, of messing it up. But I really do like kind of the highlighted look and the edges. Honey art, yes! Honey art would be fantastic. Okay. So, I've got my lips. I worked on a little bit of highlighting. I've got my different shapes where we've got some shadow and some light. Let me just go through and smooth some of these shadows so that we don't have quite the is that meant to look natural? Oh, well, I know that. I mean, you can. There are some amazing artists out there that do watercolor work, and it looks like a damn portrait, right? It's just so perfect. I just want to smooth some of this shading, just so it looks finished. And I actually, you know, it's that how, oh, nice. It's that happy little accident. Oh, no. I knew you guys were talking about Terraria. I did. It just happened to read that right as I was doing okay, I just happened to read that at the exact time. No, you're fine. Y'all carry on. Carry on my wayward son. There'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest. Don't you cry no more. All right. So, all in all, let me get a little bit more with this heart because I'm not quite done. Yeah. Now, I have actually found myself looking at imagery, looking at pictures and going, "Oh, that's the shadow in this," you know, or "Oh, I see the highlight now." And that's interesting to me because I never really gave two plucks before, you know. All right, I want to go through and just darken the lines around here overall, kind of like I did on the mouth. We're going to turn the picture to do this because why should I strain to get my lines when I can just move it? And I am going more for a direct chunk of pigment right there to make this outline a little more defined. And we're going to go through. I am so freaking happy with this. Oh, my goodness gracious. I am so happy with this. Oh, looks like Pac just gave up for the night. This is so cool. All right, let's drop that in there. There is a rogue hair strand. And it was giving me fits. Okay. I love that I look up and I read that just in time to see that I was fiddling with it. Okay. So that one's cleaned off. Now, I'm going to do one more thing. And again, we should have a honey hair. We should have a honey hair. Hey, blessed eternal. Blessed Raiders. Aloha. Okay, we need a honey hair. We need a honey art. We need a honey tone. Or honey concentrate. Honey think. Honey think. Okay, now which one? Let me see which brush would be good for this. Okay, I think I'm going to go for this small flat brush. Hi, Raiders. Southana, feel free to drop those into a chat with me or into mod chat. Okay. Now, the one more thing that I want to do is just soften some of the shadow. So I just want to go in there and just soften that edge. Now, I realize I just spent a lot of time making that edge. And to go in here and soften it may seem counterintuitive. But again, this is watercolor. Gosh, I'm happy with those lips. And everything in watercolor is it can be very flowy. And I like the idea. We've made some highlights, we've made some shadows, but I want to go ahead and just, I feel like it should be blended in, you know? Just a bit. Just a bit. So it's not quite so delineated, you know, line, line, done. I want it to be a little more shadow and highlight, and not quite, you know, a defined structure, a defined shape, yes, but shadow and light blending. Listen to me sounding like I know what the hell I'm doing. But I have rather enjoyed learning some things on Skillshare, and reading and seeing um, how oh how often, you know, the really the same lesson is given. Hey, this is how you can fade some of your mistakes. Maybe you have to rethink how you do. Maybe you have to just, you know, go in right away and erase it. Um, you know, the different ways that you can actually, you know, do the highlighting, how we can remove a bit of color, how we can add a bit of color. And it's just so, it to me, it's just continually reiterating, you know, lessons learned. And so I think it's really interesting to realize that, oh, okay, right, I know that, or I know what they're about to say, you know, and that's exactly what they said, you know. So yeah, as you read a new article or whatever, and then you realize that, oh my goodness, you know, right? Okay, now I'm going to go ahead, and again, I just one of the things that I love is just that flowy nature. Now, when I'm trying, and like I looked at my first painting again, I went back and I looked at my first painting again, and I was like, you know, I really, really do like this painting. I really like this picture. But then I'm like, but I see what I've learned, like where you could take out, you know, wherever the light source is, you take out a little bit to lighten it, and and those different things. Like I actually did a little bit of that just naturally, not realizing it, as I used a darker color over this, and then I was trying to make some texture. So it's interesting that just sort of naturally, instinctively, some of that did happen. And then as I've learned and I've read and I've watched, I've been like, oh. Now for the lips, I'm just going to soften this middle line. Like I want it there, but I don't want it to be like a hardcore line. And I'm really happy with how the lips have already shaped and had some highlighting. I'm pretty happy with how we did all that. Just want to go through and just soften this line. Now, the interesting thing, look at that. Holy cats. As I soften that line, we almost made like the creases in your that tickled. You know, like the creases in your lip naturally. Okay. That's kind of cool. Okay, again, soften that liner. And I think I'm going to call it done.
Well, it still takes forever for it to load.
Okay. So, if the stream will behave for the next few minutes, we'll wrap it up.
We got the color in there.
Oh man, that was so good. A chai tea. Okay. So, this is our first, like, portrait style. I am so incredibly happy with that mouth. Okay, so one side of the lip is way more up than the other. Is fuller. We've got some highlighting. We've got some shading. I am really super happy with that. So